Well, hello and welcome to the JW Review. My name is Mike Felker, and we are looking at study article number 26 from the June 2025 Watchtower Study Edition, and this article is being studied the first week of September, so by the time you're watching this, we are a little bit past that, but hopefully this review will be helpful to you. And as many of you know, I am not an ex-Jehovah's Witness, but it's good to reiterate that because we always have new people coming in kind of wondering what my background is. So if that is you, I am really glad you're here, especially if you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I hope with that you will hear me out, and let's just think together, okay? And the Watchtower is actually going to invite us to do that when we start reading into this study article. And so the article is titled, Modestly Accept What You Do Not Know. And when I saw that title, I knew this would be really interesting to review. So let's dive right in with the key text, Job 37:23. The Almighty, we cannot find him. He is exalted in power, and he will not afflict justice and abundant righteousness. All right, paragraph 1. Jehovah created us with the ability to think, to take in knowledge. That's a really well-known phrase to witnesses, to develop understanding, and to display wisdom. Why did he make us this way? He wants us to find the knowledge of God and to serve him with our power of reason. Yes. So, yes, this is great. So if they were inviting us to use wisdom and use reason and use understanding and apply our knowledge, then yes, let's do it. And let's apply that to this study article. Paragraph 2. Although we have the capacity to learn, we have limitations in what we do know. So, yeah, I agree. We have limitations in what we do know, but also add what we can know. There's a lot of things that we maybe can't know. All right? And there's also going to be some... We're going to read this. So I'm going to read this. I was about to jump ahead. So before I comment, let me just read this. Consider Job's example. He was confronted with a series of questions that revealed just how much he did not know. That experience humbled him and helped him to correct his thinking. Okay, here's what I was going to get at. We too benefit when we modestly recognize that we do not know everything. Right. Such modesty moves us to trust that Jehovah will reveal to us what we really need to know so that we can make wise choices. The key here is Jehovah will reveal what we know, what we really need to know. And how does he do that? Well, he does that through his word primarily, but also the application through the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit can lead us and guide us to the truth. All right? So, yes, great. So, what's the problem? Well, the problem is something we would add to that if you're a witness. So, not only does Jehovah not reveal directly to you what you need to know, he doesn't do that. Let me explain. The governing body tells you what you really need to know. They would say it's Jehovah, right? But it's the governing body telling you what you really need to know. But adding on to that, they tell you when you need to know it. They tell you what you need to know and when you need to know it. There may be things the governing body has already decided is true or not true. They've already decided it, but they're not ready to reveal it to everyone. It'd be really naive to think that the moment the governing body unanimously decides that something is true or not true, even if it relates to policy, to theology, doctrine, whatever it might be, it's naive to think that the moment they vote for it, they all agree on it, that they just release it to all of you. You'd be really naive to think that. Now, I can't prove this is what happens, But it could be that they've already decided things, that they're setting a date, a release date for this new light. A year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they could have this all mapped out. They could have this all mapped out. Now, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, how would that make you feel? For example, how would it make you feel if the governing body has decided a year from now, let's say the annual meeting of 2026, they've decided that birthdays are an individual's personal choice, and no one can judge you for that. What if you knew they've already decided that? What if they've already decided that blood transfusions are a personal decision, but they're not going to release that one for 5 years from now? That could be the case. How would it make you feel if that could be the case as a witness? Do you care? Do you care? When they recently clarified their stance on secular education, how many years do you think they knew that they're going to be telling everyone this clarification? Could have been years. We just don't know, because no one can be a fly on the wall in the governing body meetings. I'd love to be a fly on the wall, but it's behind closed doors. Unlike the Acts 15 Jerusalem Council, where the whole church was present, the governing body meets behind closed doors. They tell you what you need to know and when you need to know it. They spoon feed it to you. They hold your hand, and they'll release you, say, off to college. Okay, personal decision. We'll let go. We're holding your hands, telling you how bad secular education is and how that's a bad decision. And now it's a personal decision. Well, nothing really changed, right? Nothing really changed. We don't really know what they clarified, because it's really flip-flop back and forth, their stance on secular education. That one's pretty confusing. So that's maybe not even the best example, but hopefully you know what I mean. All right, let's continue on. Paragraph 3. In this article, we will discuss some things that we do not know and the challenges we may face as a result. These challenges that they're going to mention are the fault of the governing body. These challenges, the ones they're going to mention, are the fault of the governing body. We'll see that when we get there. We will also examine why it is good that we do not know certain things. Discussing these points will strengthen our confidence that Jehovah, the one perfect in knowledge, tells us what we really need to know. All right, so let's go on to some eschatology, the end times. Paragraph 4, read Matthew 24:36. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone. We do not know when the end of this system of things will come. Wait, hold on a second. You don't know when the end of this... Haven't you told us over and over again that we're in the final part of the last days? This is happening very soon. So what do you mean you don't know when? Well, hold up a second. We're just talking about knowing the day or the hour. So they continue. Even Jesus, while on earth, did not know the day and hour. He later told the apostles that Jehovah, who is the great timekeeper, keeps timing of certain events in his own jurisdiction or authority. Jehovah has scheduled the time for the end of this system, but we are not in a position to figure out precisely when that will be. Okay, so we know we're in the final part of the last days. We know this is all happening very soon, all right? We just don't know precisely when that will be. Okay, well, let's find out what else they're going to say. Paragraph 5. In view of what Jesus said, we do not know how long we will have to wait until the end comes. What? Hold on. How many of you grew up in the 60s and 70s? How many of you? Probably some of you. I've heard from some of you. How many of you were told that you will never grow old in this system of things? How many of you We're part of this generation that will never pass away. How many of you were part of millions now living will never die? How many of you? So you don't know how long we'll have to wait until the end comes, but if we're in the final part of the last days, it's got to be soon, right? And what does soon mean? Look at what they say next. As a result, we might become impatient or discouraged, especially if we have already been waiting for some time for Jehovah's day. Impatient or discouraged? Is Watchtower blaming you for being impatient or discouraged when they're the ones who have been telling you your whole life that the end is happening very, 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 very soon and we need to live with urgency? Haven't they the ones been telling you that? We're going to read some quotes here in a minute. Recent quotes. I'm not going to dig up stuff from the 50s and 60s and 70s, which I could do in Jehovah's Witness apologists. You don't want me to go there, all right? So I'm going to pick stuff pretty recent, but we're going to look at some quotes here in a minute. So they've been telling you all these things, but it's your fault for being impatient and discouraged. You've been waiting for some time. I mean, whoever's been alive since the 60s and 70s, you've been waiting a long time, right? Look at what they say next. Or we might find it hard to endure ridicule from family members or others. Now, why might you be getting ridiculed, Jehovah's Witnesses? Why? Could it be because you've been telling people for decades that the end is happening very, very soon? And that you've been repeating Stephen Lett's words, who we'll see in a minute, that we're in the final part of the last days, the final part of the last days? You've been telling people that because the governing body has been telling you that's true. And you've been repeating it. And you've been getting ridiculed because of that. Now, I find it interesting they cited here 2 Peter 3. Knowing this, first of all, that in the last days, mockers will come with their mocking, following after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his parousia? Parousia, that's the word that's being used here. For since the fathers fell asleep, all continues just as it was from the beginning of creation. So you've been telling people, witnesses, that we're in the final part of the last days. And these mockers here are saying, where's the promise of his parousia? That's what they're mocking. Where is it? Where's the parousia? You've got it, Joe. You have the answer. You, Jehovah's Witnesses, have the answer. 1914. You can open up your Bibles, do the chronology, show them this, and say, 1914. It's there. There's the parousia. 1914. Right? And we've been living in the last days ever since then. And notice what we just read here in Matthew 24. What's before Matthew 24:36? Just back up 2 verses. 2 verses. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Because you tell your friends and family, these people who are ridiculing you, parousia, Christ presence, Jesus is king, 1914. We're in the last days. Oh, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. What generation? Oh, okay. Now you got to explain this crazy overlapping generations thing from David's Blaine that no one can actually explain. Right? That's why you're being ridiculed. Because they're going to ask you, well, explain this generation. Okay, if we're living in the last days, and Jesus said, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Are you in this generation? Were your parents? Okay, it sounds like your grandparents were in this generation. Here you are, several generations later. What's up with that? Now, the smart thing to do, Jehovah's Witnesses would just say, you got me, I don't know, right? Let me get back with you and hope you forget you ever asked that, right? That'd be the smart thing to do. The bold thing to do would be to actually explain the overlapping generations of David Splain's explanation. Makes no sense whatsoever, but that would be the bold thing to do. So back to paragraph 5. Could it be that that's why you're getting ridiculed, because of just the crazy teachings of David Splain and how none of this actually makes sense? Could it be that they're ridiculing those things and not actually ridiculing Scripture? Because there's actually a way to read these Scriptures in a non-crazy way, right? A way that actually makes sense, that doesn't put you in these crazy conundrums, okay? There's ways to do that. Watchtower's not interested. Watchtower's not interested in that at all. They're just digging their hole deeper. Look at what they say next. It is possible to feel that if we knew the exact day the end would come, we would be more patient and we would be able to endure ridicule more easily. That's a really, really interesting admission. Okay, so you don't know the exact day, but what's the next best thing to knowing the exact day? Well, maybe the decade? How about just knowing that whether it's going to happen in this century or not? Right? How about just this century? If you knew that, if you knew that it could happen this century, would that help you endure ridicule more easily? I mean, I'm here to tell you that if you knew the timeline, you'd live your life differently. If you really, really knew that. I mean, for example, if you knew that you're going to die from cancer in 2 years, you're going to live the next 2 years pretty differently. So you don't know the exact date, but do you know the decade, the century? What do you actually know? Because governing body is telling you it's all happening very soon. And they were telling previous generations, in the traditional sense of the word, that you will never grow old in this system of things. And when you were told that, you lived your life differently. When you were told you're part of this generation, millions now living will never die, you lived your life a little bit differently. But now, what's going on? Well, let's continue. Paragraph 6. Actually, by not revealing the date for the end, Jehovah gives us the opportunity to show that we serve him because we love him and trust in him. We are not serving Jehovah with a deadline in mind. Wow. And they say, as if our faith in him had an expiration date. You're not serving Jehovah with a deadline in mind. So let me get this straight. You're not serving Jehovah with the reality that you're in the final part of the last days. No? Is that all being done away with? Do we have new light here? Because they're the ones who've been telling you this for decades and decades and decades and hammering this all the time, nearly obsessing over it. But you're not serving Jehovah. So you're not serving Jehovah with urgency that the end is very, very soon? No? Look at what they say next. And this nearly made me sick. Instead of focusing primarily on when the day of Jehovah will come, we do well to focus on what the day will accomplish. Okay. So don't focus on the when. Don't focus on the when. Look at what they say here in paragraph 7. We do well to focus on what we do know, that the last days began in 1914. So what they're saying here in paragraph 6 is, instead of focusing on the actual day, just focus on what the day will accomplish. But yet we're in the final part of the last days. Focus on that. Does that really make any sense? Don't focus on the actual day, but do focus on the fact that we're in the final part of the last days. Does that really make any sense to you? So don't focus on that. Don't focus on the fact that we're in the last days. Let's just look at what the Watchtower has said in times past, because what I'm going to show you is a major softening that's going to be revealed in the November Watchtower. You can go read it right now, so it'll be revealed when you're studying that article. Gosh, if that's November, you'll be studying it in sometime in 2026, I'm guessing. But let's first read that, okay? So let me pull this over. So this is the November 2025 Watchtower, paragraph 7. It says, and we'll actually review this when that time comes. So we'll be doing 2 reviews of this. Paragraph 7. And this is, what page is this? Looks like page 4. So study article number 44, titled Maintain Your Joy in Old Age. And so this is paragraph 7. Perhaps you are saddened by the possibility that the end of this system will not come in your lifetime. If you feel that way, what can help? Try to remember that Jehovah is patiently waiting to bring an end to this wicked world. But his patience is not without purpose. His patience is allowing millions of people the time and the opportunity to come to know him and serve him. So when you feel discouraged, try to think about how many people will benefit from Jehovah's patience before the end comes. Might some of them be members of your own family? All right, so the end, it may not come in your lifetime. So forget about all the stuff that we said. It may not come, in your lifetime. Could come in a year, could come in 5 years, 10 years, 100 years. Who's to say? Who's to know, right? This is a clear softening. Now, they might have said something somewhat similar. So I'm not saying they've never softened it in the past, but I can say that right now, right here, they are softening it. And so what I'd like to do is just give all of us some reminders of what they've been saying just in the past couple of years about the fact that we're living in the last days, and how urgent that is, and how imminent that is. And we're going to start from none other than Stephen Lett to tell us where we actually are in terms of getting close to the end.
So the events unfolding around us are making clearer than ever that we're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
It almost sounds like a mockery, doesn't it? Or like a parody, the way he says that. Because you could imagine somebody mocking the witnesses and say, oh, you think we're in the final part of the last days? But that's what Stephen Lett says. So let's look at some more. This is the August 2020 Watchtower Study Edition, paragraph 17, and this is page 7. Today we have more reason than ever to focus on the future. World events clearly show that we are in the final part of the last days of this system of things. The final part. Soon, we will no longer need to wait for the city having real foundations to take full control of the earth. We're in the final part, and this is happening soon. This is the meeting workbook of November, page 11, first paragraph. Very soon, Jehovah's patience with this world will end. False religion will be destroyed. A coalition of nations will attack God's people, and Jehovah will execute the wicked at Armageddon. Christians look forward to these momentous events. It's happening very soon. Their words. This is recently as March 2025. Paragraph 9, page 16. Our understanding of Bible prophecy can move us to preach with zeal. We know that the time left for this system is short. We recognize that current events and the attitude of people today reflect what the Bible foretold would mark the last days. Going to the end, we are convinced that as the prophecy indicates, soon, very soon, God's kingdom will destroy human governments. All these prophecies reveal where we are in the stream of time and spur us on to preach with a sense of urgency. This is the July 2025. This is next month's Watchtower. Paragraph 13, page 17. We respond to the truth that we are living in the last days with a sense of urgency. Note what we can learn about urgency from Jesus' illustration found at Luke 12:15 through 21. I'll skip down. Today, as this system of things draw to a close, we might ask ourselves, what do my goals reveal about my sense of urgency? What about the goals I help my children to set? Do I use my strength, my time, and my financial resources to primarily to build up treasures for myself or store up treasures in heaven? Did they write this before or after the clarification on secular education? I have to wonder. And then we turn to what we read a moment ago. Just to recap, November 2025, perhaps, and just unless you're going to have amnesia to everything I just read, look at what I'm about to read here. In light of what I just read and what Stephen Letts said, we're going to read this again. Perhaps you are saddened by the possibility that the end of this system will not come in your lifetime. And they don't specify what age they're talking about. They don't specify whether they're talking about a 95-year-old or a 5-year-old. Can a 5-year-old read paragraph 7 in here and say, a 5-year-old saying, I'm saddened by the possibility that the end of the system of things will not come in my lifetime as a 5-year-old. But they're not ruling that out. If you feel that way, what can help? Try to remember that Jehovah is patiently waiting to bring an end to this wicked world. So he's being patient. But this may not happen in your lifetime. Jehovah's just being patient. So are we supposed to forget everything that they've ever said? Are we supposed to forget what Stephen Letts said? What are we supposed to do about this? Well, paragraph 7 to the rescue. Back to our review. We do well to focus on what we do. Note that the last days began in 1914. but yet, we don't know if the end's going to happen in our lifetime. Could be 100 years. Could be 1,000 years. We just don't know. Then they say here later on, we are convinced that the great day of Jehovah is near. Well, please tell us, governing body, what does near actually mean? What does very soon actually mean? And at the end of this paragraph, thank you very much. We do not need to know the day and hour in order to have a zealous share in this vital work. Okay, you don't need to know the day or the hour, but do you need to know that it's happening in your lifetime? Well, they told a lot of you that it would happen in your lifetime. So what do you do with that? Paragraph 9. Our not knowing how Jehovah will act in our behalf could cause us to become indecisive. We might hesitate to make sacrifices to expand our ministry, such as simplifying our life or moving to where there is a greater need for kingdom publishers. So would you hesitate to make sacrifices? Would you do these things or not do these things based on the urgency that they have been giving you for decades and decades about the end being near? They say, or we may wonder whether we have God's approval if we do not reach our theocratic goals. This is really interesting. So what I said in this note is, all of this is determined by the governing body. All this is determined by the governing body. Having God's approval in reaching certain theocratic goals. Because who's the one who asked you to turn in your preaching hours for the last, since Jehovah's Witnesses have been around? And how many of you felt like you didn't get God's approval because you didn't turn in enough hours? Even though you're fully capable, but maybe life got busy. Maybe life got busy. It's the governing body who determines these things for you. Then they say here in paragraph 10, when we have good results in the ministry or in a theocratic project, we rightly give Jehovah the praise. So, if good results actually mattered, then why the literature cards? Honestly, if good results mattered, why the literature cards? Because there's no results, practically no results with it's not even that you get bad results, it's that you get no results. Because you'll stand out there for endless amounts of hours with no one talking to you. You're not preaching to anyone. You're just standing there texting or just mingling with your friends. So why the literature cards? I really, really want to know why the literature cards. Well, the real reason why is because the governing body has told you that this is a method of preaching and that this is an option of preaching. Even though preaching doesn't really happen at the literature cards. Even door to door. How much preaching actually happens in the door-to-door ministry? So if we want to talk good results, we can look at the door-to-door work as well and show that there's a really bad success rate with the door-to-door ministry. At the end of paragraph 10, we are confident that he will provide us with the direction we need, even if not in the same miraculous way that he sometimes did in the past. Now it's through the governing body, right? You get the direction you need through the governing body. The governing body who makes mistakes, who makes errors, who tells you, who gives you mixed messages about the end. That's where you get the direction you need, right, Jehovah's Witnesses? Paragraph 15. They say that we know that he cannot lie, talking about Jehovah. Jehovah cannot lie. And then what they say, this is really interesting. He alone can foretell the outcome, and from long ago the things that have not yet been done. This was true of times past, and it will be true of future events. So let me get this straight, Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah is directing the governing body to put all of this stuff in print. The Watchtowers, right? That's all the written material. What about all of the video material? That's all directed by Jehovah, right? Through the governing body. And Jehovah cannot lie. But what do we do with these mixed messages about the last days and how we're supposed to view them? What do we do with that? With Jehovah not lying, but the governing body can make mistakes. What do we do with that? Paragraph 19. The gift of the ransom assures us that we can succeed despite our imperfections. I had to read this one several times. This is just one of those ones to where, where does the Bible actually say this? Where does the Bible say that the ransom or the sacrifice of Christ assures us that you can succeed? Where does Christ's sacrifice assure us that you can succeed despite your imperfections? Where is that in the Bible? Paragraph 20. Jehovah has not deprived us of any information that we really need to have, except for when the governing body says it's now okay for you to have this information, and we're going to spoon feed it to you because we're determining when you're ready for it. When we modestly accept that fact, we avoid undue anxiety over what we cannot control and what we can focus on what really matters. So by modestly accept it just means believe whatever the governing body tells you to and don't question it. Don't question it. While our understanding of some matters is limited now, we look forward to an eternity of learning new things from and about our grand God. So let me encourage you, Jehovah's Witnesses, to go back to paragraph 1 and apply this. Apply Proverbs 2:1-5 and Romans 12:1. Apply those. Let's actually read those. I should have read it at the beginning, but let's just read it now. Proverbs 2, my son, if you will receive my words and treasure my commandments within you, to make your ear pay attention to wisdom, incline your heart to discernment. For if you call out for understanding, give your voice for discernment. If you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of Yahweh and find the knowledge of God. So wisdom, understanding, reasoning, apply it here. Apply it here. Don't let the governing body tell you what you need to know and when you need to know it. You have God's revelation. You have your reasoning ability. You have the academic disciplines like science, logic, philosophy, history. You have all of these wonderful tools that God has given you. So use them. Question these things. And that goes for me. Question what I'm saying. Question what I'm saying too. So what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave them down below in the comment section. If you can't leave a comment publicly, totally fine. If you go down to the video description below or the show notes, if you're listening to this via podcast, there's a couple of ways to contact me personally. I'd love to hear from you, so feel free to reach out to me that way. If you want to support this, hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bells. Those help immensely, more than you know, in the algorithm so that this video on YouTube can be recognized. Otherwise, if those don't happen, these get lost in a massive sea of material, a lot of which is not from a believing Christian worldview. So if you do like to promote content creators like myself and others who are from a Christian perspective, please consider liking, subscribing, notification bell, and all of that stuff. If you're listening to this, Apple Podcasts, leaving a review, 5-star review, that helps out immensely as well. Other ways to support this is Patreon in the link below to become a monthly supporter to help me keep the lights on. So hope this review was helpful to you, and we will see you next time. For more information about Jehovah's Witnesses and other topics, please visit michaeljfelker.com. There you can also reach me directly to submit questions or comments to be covered on the JW Review. To subscribe to this podcast, please go to iTunes and search for the JW Review.